it's crunch time. We have played 4 games, we have 1 more remaining, and it is your last opportunity in this next game for all of the players left in Heat 1 now to try and secure a spot in that major finals. 1 spot will go to the winner of this next game, but for everybody else, it's about doing enough for consistency. One team who it feels like has been doing enough up to this point is Cringe and Twy, and I know this is a team you're very excited about, Reese.
It is. You know, I would love to. I could give you them strats. I could give you the history of the team. But all that matters is that Cringe is actually Scottish, so you know it doesn't matter.
That's the real analysis.
That's the breakdown.
The real analysis.
On a real note, they have been playing incredibly well. I mean, top 10 in the first game, and after that, 4th, 6th, 4th. I mean, in terms of heats, that is beyond expectations to be a qualifying duo through consistency. So, I mean, I'd like to see them end on a bang and, you know, win the last match. But either way, I mean, you can almost guarantee that they're going to make it through consistency.
Definitely, definitely. And, you know, for Cringe to Try, in a reality, you know, when you look at the playstyle, when you look at the match history, I don't really see these guys ever dropping a double-digit ELIT game. You know, you don't see them going absolutely insane. They're a team who has strats on strats on strats, whether they play Storm. You know, right now they're dropping mid-map, which is extremely good for this current meta where, you know, most people are just trying to get to the center of zone, and they already dropped there.
Well, look, of course, things are getting tight, and we're looking for the top 10 teams to qualify. And so after the next game, we're going to be looking for top 15. So let's take a look at who's in and around that range. If we look at this next page, oh, production, fantastic. Ooh. We can see there one of the teams who absolutely a lot of people would have been predicting to be in a safe spot by now will be Yapko and Panzer. You can see them there in 16th. Above them, Wheat and the Frizzy. After that impressive second place, rising, soaring up the standings, Takar.
Yeah, I mean, this gets stressful for a lot of these players, but to be fair, it's not super high of a cutoff. Getting second place would secure you 56 points with 0 eliminations. So everybody, even on this further end of the leaderboard, all they need basically is to get to the end game and have a decent match. Now, that is a lot easier said than done.
It is, definitely. You know, a lot of people will say top 15 is easy, top 20 is easy, whatever it is, and then you get into the lobby and then you actually try. I saw a tweet earlier which said this heat looks so unbelievably easy, but you have Yapko and Panzer in 16th, as we highlighted there, a team who has won a divisional cup last season, who's been top 10 2 divisional cups this season, not performing. In 19th, you have Cringe and Volko, who of course was Toka's pick to do well, the sleeper team to do well, who is not also doing that well. But a big important note is also what we mentioned there, the little arrows on the left to show where they were before. 15th places they've moved up, whereas Wheat and Frizzy also in 15th moved up 22 places from that. So as we mentioned, a top 2, a win straight into a qualifier, but it just needs a big game from obviously the people further down in the leaderboard than this. These guys just need something consistent.
Well, yeah, I wonder if we can start to look further down, just because, again, it is going to be so tough for any of those teams in that range, right? Again, like you guys rightfully highlight, it's about the consistency, right? Just having a decent, solid game. If you're one of the teams that didn't even see your name on those first 2 pages, hey, you might have to forget all that second place stuff. It might just have to be the win or nothing. And those are the electric games, right? We see these non-stop hype takes. Those are the games that are always the most fun to watch, it feels like, Takar.
Look, I'm thinking of a specific duo, actually. Pink and Sato. They're in 36th place currently. Yeah. They have 44 points. Now, 36 doesn't sound so good, but looking at 44 points versus the cutoff around 95, I see something, you know, some potential in there. One good game from them. Issue is they've had Sharkantini playing quite aggressive, you could say, towards them. They do drop in their surrounding area, so they obviously don't want to go against that in finals. So it all comes down to this last match.
I'm not seeing it. They've got to win a game. I think looking at the numbers, like, yeah, it's 50 points, but that puts them up to 97. But the threshold's going to move up by what? 20 points? It's probably going to be 120 or something like that. So for basically any team who's in that threshold right now, it's going to have to be the big game win, or you're going to last chance qualifier next week, which no one wants to do if you're already here in the heats.
Well, look, enough waffling. Let's get to the action. Your destiny is in your hands if you're one of the players in this game. Taco Mini for the last time today. Take it away. Put us out of our misery.
A single win and you are in, guaranteeing your position on the battle bus for the Major 1 finals. Sure, last chance qualifiers right around the corner, Mini Miner, but we know just how much all of these teams want to try and avoid that kind of circumstance whenever possible. And it starts right here, right now, because this is their last opportunity before LCQ to try and get the job done.
Yeah, you want to get the job done early. It's like leaving your homework to the last minute. You don't want to do it. I was guilty of it. It never goes well. So you want to get the job done as soon as you can, and you don't want to be leaving it until that last chance qualifier, because there's so many big teams in that lobby that you just don't want to be going up against. It's going to be really difficult. But for some of the teams that are lower on down, Pink and Sato, potentially one big game is all that separates them from this Major 1 finals. And then for teams that are even lower down than that, they need the victory royale. So it's going to come down to it.
But we are ready to start things off. Last game of the day, match number 5 here in HEATS 1 for EU. You can see the legendary POIs are going to fall towards Sus Studios and Latte Landing, but right now it's all eyes on Squibbly Shores, Ken and Cryfalls. They've been getting relatively fraggy super early on, a lot of times having to deal with that on-spawn contention, and it'll be one more time that they're running that scene back. Spicy Fish have been utilized, so they're looking for a quick collapse if they can find it, but at the same time, not getting pressured just yet by Chuck and Valerie. This has been a pretty split 50-50 between these two teams for the most part.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. Why?
Who's the victim?
To try and get some damage. Yeah, this is... Can they get it? Yeah, there we go. Nicely done.
Sometimes the bus paths can be brutal for some of our other contenders, but that's just the nature of the lobby at times. Dexy, Frosty. I do feel like this is another one of those duos, Mini, where a lot of teams would have, or not even teams, but a lot of the public eye would have kind of been leaning towards this as a duo that falls through consistency at the very least.
Yeah, it's one of those, you know, you just expect things from teams and then the games come through and it's like, well, things are actually going a little bit differently than what you expected. So, you know, when it does come down to these last few moments, you just expect teams that maybe you were expecting more from to have these big pop-off moments. For Ken and Cryfalls here, that's nicely finished up right there for them. That's one elimination apiece. Belry back to the lobby, unfortunately, for them, and not going to be a major finals for them, unfortunately. Not been the dream situation for them. This is a fight we saw earlier on in the last game. Easy and gold. Nicely done with that first elimination, but there's, of course, so much action in this area. You have to be so careful. And that was nicely cleaned up right there. But, of course, there's that another third party, there's that other team lurking nearby.
Yeah, Nero and Josh Bot made things a little bit dicey there for a moment for Cheesy, but I think the real indirect helping hand for Cheesy and Goldboy was Twy finding those initial early shots onto Omexo that just put such a huge stoppage into their early off-spawn fighting strategy. And now, they enter what Teeny and Shark are getting up to, infiltrating the likes of Frozen Shard. There's only one duo that they're hunting for right now, Mini, and I think we all know that it's Pink and Sato, but so far the scene is clear. They won't have to deal with Shark and Teeny just yet, but that is still going to be something that kind of hangs over their heads, where Shark Teeny, they seem very adamant on trying to chase that duo down.
Yeah, they do. I mean, even potentially looking towards Vico and Malabuka. I mean,
right?
If they can, you know, if they can get them out of the lobby for the major finals, their spot is not confirmed at all. And if they can get Frigid Fortress to themselves, I wonder if they could think about that as a potential option for the major finals. Maybe if Wonky Land might be a bit too risky for them now, but this is what they're doing right now. Very, very sneaky for Shark and Teeny. It's something that they've done so often here today. Just rotate over to this east side.
Almost makes you nostalgic of Teeny back when he used to be with Misha, and they like to play, you know, drop spot roulette, essentially. And for the most part, Vico and Malabuka, they don't seem to have any idea, and if Vico isn't careful, he might just find himself on the receiving end of a couple of shotgun tags that'll be too much to handle, but Shark, Teeny, they are just so patient, really biding their time. Vico, fortunately for right now, won't find himself eliminated for it, just gonna keep blindly overdrive grenading away, sticking close to Malabuka's side, but Shark, Teeny, I think they still want to give this the lurk here.
Yeah, they used to do this a lot as well with Shark and Misha. Teeny and Misha, I should say, they used to lurk around these sort of like surge bases that people used to do, and they used to chop them down. It's very, very reminiscent of that. But Yapko and Panzer, a team that you would expect to see in the major finals right now. They're not home and dry at all yet. It's at 95 points, so they're still outside of that threshold. They need a good game here, not just a decent game. It's got to be a solid one to qualify on through. Unfortunately for Chris and Cactus, they aren't in such a good situation and probably going to be angling more towards a victory. And that really changes things for so many teams. When you have been a team that's not just needing a win, but also haven't been playing that great on the day, it can just make a bit of a mess in the end game. And there's so many teams that are thinking the same, and you need to be on your A game to react to it. Always makes for an exciting end, so stick around for it. It'd be great, as Shark and Teeny get a very aggressive play here onto Vico Malabuka. They've been lurking and following them at about 2 miles an hour the whole way through. And they finally caught up to them. That is where things start to get a bit messy.
Yeah, but for Vico and Malabuka, they might look to just fully disengage here. Shark and Teeny are still going to be forced to just kind of lurk around. Vico has done a decent job at just maintaining a little bit of spacing here, but Shark, decent tag. That's not shield that he was willing to sacrifice, and it is going to play a little bit of a part towards that net surge overall. I mean, think about how much time that they've expended just following Vico and Mali around the map in the first place, so kind of need to come up with something here, Mini.
This is a difficult situation for them, and I think Vico Malabuka, I'm sure they know what the situation is here, because of course this is a team that are going to be right next door to them if both do make the major finals. And Shark and Teeny, they want to make sure that there's as little high quality top tier talent around them as possible. I think we can confidently say that Shark and Teeny's spot in the major finals is confirmed, and this is the good format for Malabuka. Remember that Chapter 5 Season 1 win with Mustache? That was a really great one. They played really well. One of the most frightening teams, sort of a bit of a comeback for Mustache and Malabuka in that season. And they were so frightening in sort of Chapter 3, and then it changed up a little bit. Things changed in Chapter 4 when Mustache ended up playing with Tayson, winning Major 1. Of course, we all remember what happened to Malabuka and Thomas in that time. I think it was 1 point in the end. So it's good to see those guys getting back. So maybe this is going to be a bit of a resurgence of that level of dominance, maybe, from Malabuka and Vico. They have the talent, they just haven't had the results from it so far. Maybe it'll take time to develop. And Teeny and Shark are almost embodying that level of gameplay right now, and that level of scariness throughout the rest of the lobby. People used to be scared of Mustache and Malabuka. Probably the most we've had it in EU. And I say that Teeny and Shark are almost embodying that themselves.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's so reserved from both of these duos, because for Shark, Teeny, if they slip up here, they'll just be providing Malabuka and Vico with pretty much the guarantee into the Major 1 finals. I'd have a hard time believing that Vico Malabuka wouldn't be able to translate a solid eliminations onto Shark and Teeny into a nice end game placement finish. But the longer that fight kind of draws out, or I should say doesn't happen, the more time that both of those duos are going to have to commit to not being able to really calculate any surge that they might need later on. We've seen so many duos kind of being hassled by dealing with the surge threshold and not having enough. It's Yapko, Panzer. They are looking to take matters into their own hands here. Dealing with Xanthifying Words, just another one of those duos. 44 points, that's nowhere near good enough for making sure that you can lock in consistency side of the leaderboard. Just got to get the win in. But Yapko, Panzer, they are in that position where, you know, realistically, top 5 placement would be the most ideal circumstance for them, but Sun continues to pull controls over some of these vending machines along the way. That's going to be, I think, something that kind of comes back to haunt them if they're not able to find those eliminations that they were hoping for.
Difficult for them. I think we haven't had too many south zones today either. I feel like it's been the majority sort of northwest of the map. I don't remember there being any sort of sand in any zones, and we're sort of heading back towards the west side of the map now. The Hyper and Robin, we saw a really nice solo clutch from Robin earlier on. Keeping them in contention, keeping them around that top 5 of the leaderboard. They're not quite there yet, but not too far away either. You can sort of see where this zone's pulling a little bit more south. So what we've seen so far in the day. Look at all the players in the Storm as well. I mean, there's players in Safe Landing. They've got that big launch pad there. There's just so many playing the Storm, and it's something we spoke about earlier. It's just skipping that mid game is super valuable for them. Just to that degree is crazy.
But you are still taking the risk of, you know, having to then deal with storm sickness if you find yourself in a situation during the moving zones, for example, where you want to go for a heal, but then you can't because you expended so much time inside the storm early on. See how that fares. But Vico, Malabuka, worst scenes possible. Vico by himself at 136 points. They are out of here. Teeny and Shark have just ran it down on Vico and Malabuka. And this might be the moment that haunts Vico and Mali for the remainder of this day.
Don't know
I mean, I'm
that's
speechless, Minnie, because that's not a duo that you would ever expect to be at risk of not making it through this first heat.
Yeah,
and yet here they are, likely going to be just edged out of that top of the leaderboard.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it. 136 points. They were in the top 9 going into this game, which was that was the threshold. They were the threshold. Of course, we had 4 victory rounds, top 5 qualified through. I'm just trying to do all the maths in my head to make sure it's actually correct, because it doesn't seem real. Yeah, 4 + 5 is 9. They were in 9th, so now every other player is going to be catching up to them. Every other team down below, they're going to be out. They're not going to be in the Major 1 finals yet, so they're going to have it all to do in the last chance qualifier. Really big story for them. That's probably the biggest surprise in the Major 1 last chance qualifier. Exciting. Nevertheless, though, as we get to watch some top-tier teams go at it, if they even make it to the final of the last chance. I want to jinx them here as WX and Lunex inside this fight. Played pretty well so far today. They're another team that's sort of in good contention for it. So haven't necessarily had a dream day. They've been pretty solid, and they're in that threshold, and there's another elimination for them. Pretty solidly in that threshold, actually. Top 7 going into this game with another few eliminations, going to bolster their chances at getting through. Been a pretty solid performance from them.
Every few points just makes it all the better. 3 per elimination. But now I'm looking at a team like Zippy and Dirty. You called it earlier here today. Zippy trying to secure his first ever grand moment. And they are right on the cusp of being able to make it in, especially when teams like Vico and Malabuka are seen with such early elimination departures here. If they're able to find a strong placement finish in this final lobby, Mini, that could be the difference maker, because they're already sitting at 13th heading into this final lobby. All they've really got to do is just find their own flow, not get distracted, but that's so much easier said than done, especially when you're thinking about the caliber of lobby that they're dealing with still.
Yeah, I don't want to clarify. I was actually wrong. I was doing the maths wrong. It's actually top 10 teams qualify. I was doing top 5. It's not, so it's okay. Vico and Malabuka are in it for now. Of course, top 15 at the end of the day.
It's still so close, man. Let's be realistic.
It's still going to be so close. It's going to be so close. I was always second guessing myself, and I was like, no, surely, but then, of course, it's top 15 at the end of the day. 10 consistency teams qualifying through. I think my brain's still in trio mode.
But not having any control, I think, is kind of where I want to like pick up more with that, because Vico Malabuka, even at 136 points, I mean, you are still kind of depending on some of the other teams trailing just behind you to all have not the greatest performances. And while I think technically it is pretty realistic to expect that they might just make it in towards that like 13th through 15th position, it's still going to be rough to sit and watch and kind of just, you know, that sinking feeling in your stomach almost, because you don't have control of your fate any longer. Not all because of Shark and Teeny just kind of playing a little bit of the eviler side of Fortnite here, but it's all for good reason. I mean, it is a very smart strategy from Shark and Teeny, and I don't want to take away from that either.
Yeah, definitely. Still going to be a bit dicey for Vico Malibu. Not going to be easy at all, but thankfully they're not out yet. So apologies there for my mistake, but we're hoping to see them in the major finals as usual. Lunex though on his own, quite solidly in that top spot in terms of qualification, but losing out on a teammate right now, not ideal. Down to just solo. WX has been playing very well, and Lunex needs to try and find this refresh to get those materials up. Unfortunately, below on the surge, gets the knock, but gets knocked out as well. Lunex and WX out of the lobby. Their fate is out of their hands. Have they done enough? Potentially they have.
And for Truly now too, left as a solo. He'll be trying to ensure that he can do everything in his power to try and muster up whatever placement points they can find, but Hyper now in a very similar position to where Robin was in the last lobby mini. How many placement points can he actually secure as a solo, especially when so many other teams are just starting to bear down the zone pools closer and closer. Shark and Teeny just barely managing to come out on top in this last little exchange. A little bit more messy than what they would have hoped for, but at the end of the day, it's them sitting with 5 eliminations. I mean, they were never pressed over whether or not they'd make it. We know that this duo is locked in for the Major One Finals, Minnie. It's all about just who else might they try and prevent from being in that slot.
Yeah, it's just got a feel for the other teams that they're fighting. I mean, you know, they're the team that have no pressure on them, I suppose, in this lobby. They can do whatever they like and they'll still be okay. But Waze and Effexy sort of on that cusp going into this game. So being below Storm Surge here is really not ideal whatsoever. And 175 below is not a small number either, so this is why they're just getting very, very aggressive. Unfortunately, they don't have the heals to try and maintain their health. And the more that the Storm Surge damage ticks away at them, the more troubles they're going to have at actually finding that damage. Waze is going to have the pizza to keep himself alive for a little bit. Nicely done from Effexy to actually get a little bit of damage there, but it's not going to be enough to put them above. Only 6 below now for Waze. These are the moments that could end up qualifying you to the major finals or force you into the last chance qualifier. Now above the Storm Surge threshold, so Waze is okay, but at what cost? He's got no heals left.
It's almost like kicking the hornet's nest, though, when you're getting those surge tags onto a duo like Shark and Teeny. They're still sitting in a position where they could potentially look to just end the run here for Waze. And as a solo, the lobby might also just be able to really pick them off along the way here. But with that Storm Surge just continuing to crash away at his HP, 204 below now. He doesn't have any heals, but the more desperate you are, the more obvious it becomes. He tries to immediately jump to the box here, but gets clipped along the way. Cringe and Twy not even gonna allow him. They're just gonna realize that there is a body loot llama about to appear above them for a little bit of extra mats, but instead Waze separate himself just a little bit. But one more tick will do it. Somebody's gonna find all those mats eventually.
That's tough. That's really tough. That's the worst way to go down in the last game. You want to give yourself at least a chance, you know? They were outside of the threshold, only just. They were on the cusp, but it's going to be a horrific end for them, unfortunately. They're going to have to go through the last chance qualifier. It's now Panzer and Yapko just inside of that threshold themselves. They're going to make the most of this game. They're going to want to make the most of this game. 2 very experienced players, 2 players that know how to operate when it comes to the major finals, so they want to make it there. It's 105 points right now, puts them in a solid position. Its height is just a complete and utter mess. There's 2 or 3 teams up there right now. It's Artist and his teammate that looks as though they're the ones that are going to be taking control of it so far. But things are going to change so much, Taco. Things can change so much in Fortnite. Things can change so much in the final game of Heats. You never know what's going to happen.
I know for sure that Artist and Hero, they're not going to be able to hold on to this hyper much longer if they don't get a refresh of some sort. So Artist is going to opt to drop down, see what kind of fight he can actually build here. But Pink, Sato, frontside low. just quiet as can be, but they're going to need to find a refresh themselves too. 5 eliminations though. They have definitely been getting active in this last lobby, and we know for a fact, Minnie, that they need this win more than anyone, or as much as teams outside of that first 2 pages of the leaderboard were given. And this might just be their moment, but with Shark Teeny now looking to overtake high. Shark, though, loses a huge chunk of his HP. That's going to force Teeny to actually drop down. Wants to get a little bit more up close and personal, but no, instead goes right back up to provide a little bit of backup measures for Shark just in case. With Panzer, Yapko, there still is no time to relax. They have an uphill battle still ahead of them, even though every single bit of placement that they continue to climb here, 119 points, they still want to finish strong. They've had a really rough day today, Minnie, but closing things out in this lobby and securing their spot in the Major 1 Finals, that's all they're after.
Yeah, they're trying to squeeze out as much as possible. They've been squeezed out of the zone right there as Yapko gets sent miles into the storm, manages to make his way back in, but he has no HP, no health, no ability to heal back up there for the white HP. Cringe and Volker, you can see on the bottom of the screen, they're looking pretty strong as well on these exact same amount of points as Panzer and Yapko. So 2 teams in a very, very similar situation. Not ideal for either of them, but they're trying to squeeze out as many points as they possibly can. Panzer now almost as solo as Yapko is down to such low HP. It's going to be dicey for them in the middle. Yapko takes some shots, takes down Jeezy, and that is now down to a solo for Yapko to solo clutch.
It's crazy to see some of these players just getting sent back into the storm from the overdrive grenades, but Pink still left kicking. Ultimate Low has just started to collapse on itself non-stop, and it doesn't help when you got Shark and Teeny overhead. But Yapko with the elimination onto Midro. He secured so many points along the way. 143 is where they'll fall, but it might have just been enough. Pink and Sato, only Pink remains. Pink, he's got to try and close things up, but 103 and he's fallen. Volko and Cringe, they knew that they needed a big match, and they might have just been able to deliver here, Mini Miner. Kiri and Cuddy, just last couple of remnants here on the ultimate low side of zone. And Kiri just gonna keep trying to press through, but knowing full well that there's still a handful of other players left to contend with. It's Truly, and then of course the duo of Shark and Teeny, and now Truly just waiting. It's only moments, I think, before he's eventually forced to clash. As Teeny, it's actually only Teeny. We have a full lobby of solos, I just assumed. It's crazy to think about, but Kiri's still holding things together here on the low ground. 148 points, so that's definitely within the threshold. Twag, every single one of these teams, Minnie, looking awfully secure.
Yeah, looking good for consistency or victory. Why not do it in style here in the final game of Heat 1? Tweck still maintaining a high ground, trying to hold on to as much of that as possible. Still got the materials to do so. Kiri takes down Teeny down on the low ground as well. That's his 5th elimination of the game. Who's going to take the win, though, and go into the Major 1 Finals in style? Kiri takes the shot and secures it right there at the end to make their way into the Major 1 Finals.
It was definitely a bit of demolition derby, it felt like, in the underbelly of the low ground, Mini Miner. But at the end of the day, Kiri and Cuddy have managed to get the job done. Finding a Victor Royale is better late than never, and they've got to be feeling great knowing that their position is 100% confirmed for the Major 1 Finals. It's been a phenomenal day of these 5 matches. Can't say thank you guys enough, but now we've got to get back to the desk.
Thank you so much, my friends. An amazing job casting it up as always. And what a finish for Kiri and Kotti. I mean, that is truly one of the better
I
feelings
don't know
in
if that
Fortnite when
enough
you're able to win the final game of the Heat to make it in, especially when you were sitting just outside qualification range as well, man. That must feel amazing for them to cut.
Yeah, it was interesting because they started off the day decent and 11th place, and it just got worse. 17th, 28th, 35th. But all of a sudden, the last game, they take the win.
Yeah, huge. Like, they're 23rd before this game. So, you know, they either needed that kind of big, top 10 that we're looking for, and none of the games they played prior to this were in the top 10 at all. So absolutely by far their best game when it actually mattered.
And I think when you look at, again, how the day went for them, right? It didn't seem like it was, you know, the smoothest of days for them. And I think there will be plenty for them to adjust and work on as they go towards the finals next weekend. But they ain't gonna worry about that for now. They have to just celebrate the dub.
100%. I mean, they had an on-con drop. It was kind of like
Okay,
a split
so-
at the bottom
so us
east
is
corner of the
Ronaldo,
map.
not-
So I'm curious to see how that translates to the finals now, and if they end up going through with it, or maybe trying to mix things up in those last moments. But hey, props to Kiri in those final moments to clutch it up as a solo. You can see he was tapped in for that last shot. What a way to qualify yourself. I hope we see a reaction to that later.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Look at this list of our game winners today. All 5 game winners. We had Focus and Thomas starting out the day as our, reigning sort of winners from the play-ins, the #1 seed. We had a surprise win from Hutty and Fishy. iDrop and Marius with great performances. Hari and Cammy, obviously old teammates of iDrop from last year. And so, again, a worthy group of winners. But we obviously know these guys have qualified, right? We saw the wins happen. We saw the celebrations. What everybody wants to know and what everybody wants to see is who are our 10 consistency teams. That is what I'm waiting for. I'm nervous. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at it. We're looking for that top 15. So
And
again, we
the
knew
team
Shark
had-
and Tini were safe. Cringe and Twy, we knew they were in with a good shot. That good game from Twek and Myjo would have done it. And wow,
Oh.
as you can see there, some shocks,
Fight.
some surprises. Reese, Vico and Malabuka in 16th.
I cannot believe that. Reset
But-
Analytics coming
So,
in with the
Jake
point
Post.
estimate of 125 off the dome of my head. Would they'd be okay? But even bigger, they got keyed in that final game by Shark and Tini. This was a clear attempt by Shark and Tini to make Vico Malabuka not qualify. We saw this fight drag on
Someone
for
pit.
so long. And I
At
think
that.
that just shows the caliber of team. I was going to say that Vico and Malabuka are, that this team is scared of them. But of course, based on their performance today, the doubts are going to be there.
No, this is devastating. I was celebrating originally because my sleeper pick qualified, but then I saw number 16. Are you kidding me? I mean, Yepko Panzer are obviously feeling
say
good, though.
fucking
Barely
post.
making it in that top 15
Wow.
cutoff. They did a great job, especially in those final moments, kicking off the day. I mean, the only match where they got top 10 was that last one.
Guys, I'm sorry. I'm still just in disbelief. I know it was a long time ago, but if you rewind your brain back to the start of this show, we were bigging up Vico and Malabuka as a, a big name team that people expect to come through and, walk through this heat with ease. I asked both of you throughout the day, are we starting to get concerned about their performances? And you both told me, no, it'll be all right. It's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. It is not okay. Vico and Malabuka have to qualify through last chance qualifier next week if they have any chance of being in that Major 1 final. This is not what people were expecting whatsoever.
I am concerned. We have champions. We have legends in the EU scene not qualifying, now forced to get an attempt once again in the last chance qualifier. I honestly am almost speechless, Reese.
I think my looking at the match history, I'm not entirely surprised because they were 5th, 15th, 12th, 23rd, 38th. Each match quite literally got worse. And if you know anything about Vico Malabuka, they're emotional players. If they get triggered, if they get frustrated, things just don't go well. And it seems like based on the downward trajectory of those matches, there was probably some lost mentality in there somewhere, which is a shame to see.
And look, they weren't the only talented team to miss, right? We highlighted Zynox and Truly as being a potential dark horse team, a team that could come through and surprise people. They barely missed out. Pink and Sato, I know Frankie somewhere's out there, teary-eyed, she's upset because Pink, again, is gonna have to wait till that last chance qualifier to try and make it happen with Sato. So some big names. Look, we did say Heat 1 was the most difficult heat in EU, and I think we're seeing the effects of that. Big, talented players not making it through. They're gonna have to do it in last chance, which we will be watching, by the way. So make sure you're following the channel so you can check out our show for that next week. Again, big congratulations to the people who did qualify.
Wait,
I think
what?
We saw some talented Fortnite. I think Heat 1 for sure. We can expect to see some of
Wait,
the
you
better FNCS performers in the
live
final
feed?
come from Heat 1. But
I mean,
Takata,
like-
lots of lessons to be learned from Heat 2 and 3 tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you have the duo that had the most final appearances in the whole heat not making it, I mean, it shows experience isn't everything. We talked about the new generation coming in, and Heat 2 is where that new generation is going to be showing off. We've got Seti Rax, we've got Velo playing with Savage, we've got Ghost playing with Payson, so I'm curious to see in Heat 2 how they perform.
Absolutely, but let's be real. I'm not there for Heat 2 and 3, so they're not as good as this Heat 1.
You know what? We will miss you for Heat 2 and 3, Reese, but it's been a pleasure to have you here today with us. Thank you guys for, making my first time hosting such a breeze. It's been a lot of fun. I will be back casting tomorrow, and so yes, if you want to watch more high-level Fortnite like we've seen today, we have Heat 2 tomorrow, Heat 3 on Sunday. Still so much action. If you haven't had enough of Fortnite for today, there's going to be NA later on with Zeke and the gang over there watching some of those games. So I've heard Heat 1 in NA is going to be an amazing, amazing Heat. So be sure to check that out. It's been an absolute pleasure. As my good friend Frankie Wood would say, sound out.
Wow.